Hey, good evening. I'll call the November 20th, 2023 meeting of the Sarpy County Board of Adjustment to order at 6 o'clock p.m. Have a roll call, please.
Okay, I'm McCalman,
Present. Don't need to hit my mic.
Mattia.
Mitchie, Mattia,
Present.
Kellner,
Present.
Kokel,
Present.
and Van Wielden.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Then we do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. This is a public meeting subject to the Nebraska Open Meetings Act. A current copy of the law is located on the north wall of the county boardroom. And then have an introduction of the planning staff and legal counsel, Director Don Simon, Jason Kubicek, just left, I think.
He just stepped out.
Planning Coordinator Kelly Jeck, Deputy County Attorney Kayla Hathcote, who I think he's looking for, right? Permit Technician Lisa Timby, and County IT Account Specialist Jose Garcia. All right, back there. Okay. We will now proceed for the portion of the meeting that contains public hearings. Each agenda item will adhere to the following format as detailed by the bylaws. The agenda item will first be introduced and briefly explained by the planning staff. The applicant or applicant's representative will then be given 5 minutes to address the commission and present more information about their project. At the conclusion of the applicant's presentation, the public hearing will be open to the public and the public will be allowed to participate. Public is asked to keep comments relevant to the agenda item and in the interest of time, not be redundant to what the others have previously said. Once all parties that wish to speak have done so, the public comment portion of the agenda will be closed. At this time, the applicant or applicant's representative will be given an opportunity for rebuttal if necessary. After the applicant's rebuttal, the public hearing will be closed and the members of the Board of Adjustments can begin discussion on the agenda item and the conditions of the variance. The board may question anyone as part of this discussion without the requirement of rebuttal from others. There shall be no time limit for this discussion. With that, we call the first item on the agenda. Item number 1, Trenton Barbara Watchner. Jason will present.
And thanks for being here, board. Notification of today's public hearing were mailed to property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, and in accordance with the Nebraska Public Meetings Act, signs were posted at the subject property, and publication was made in a local newspaper. The subject property is in the Hanson's Lake subdivision, which is southwest of the La Platte Road and Platte River Drive in the southeast corner of the county. The applicant is requesting a 9-foot variance. As you can see on the site plan here, 9-foot variance to allow for a 16-foot front yard setback for a proposed attached garage to be used for parking and storage. The subject property contains a single-family dwelling with no garage, was constructed in 1961. It's approximately 6.5 feet from the front property line currently. And the house is considered a legal non-conforming use because it doesn't meet the 25-foot minimum for a front yard setback in RD 50. The proposed attached garage is to be built nearly 10 feet back from the house and will meet the side and rear setbacks. positive outcome of the proposed garage is increasing the off-street parking capacity on site. So when cars park on the adjacent section of Platte River Drive, it can be difficult to navigate due to it being narrow. That was kind of indicated here with the 17-foot width of Platte River Drive at that point. And so the applicant is requesting a variance to the Sarpy County zoning regulations due to the irregular shape, specifically the narrowness of the lot. Let me know if you have any questions.
Go ahead. Questions first, or do you want to talk to the public or the applicant first?
Well, I guess we'll wait. I'll hold my questions.
Would the applicant or the representative like to address the board?
Come up here?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Say your name and
My name is Trent Walkner. I'm the homeowner, along with my wife Barbara, and then my son Ryan is here as well. I'd like to first state by thanking you for taking your time tonight. Kelly, I first contacted Kelly back in 2021, and we worked through this for some time, and so I just appreciate everybody I've worked with Jason and Don to get to where we are today, so thank you for your time. I just have a few remarks to bring, and so it sounds like the format is I get a few minutes to talk, and so please, if this is not the time to ask questions, I'll just kind of go through what I was thinking about saying. The first thing I'd like to mention is that what we're requesting, this is something that we've thought through for 2.5 years now, worked very closely with Kelly. We had to do a corrective deed to get the rear setback requirements. We've been very thorough and methodical about this process. And so it's been over 2 years we've worked on this. As a matter of fact, Don, Kelly, and Jason and I met a year ago to plan out this meeting as well. So we had a formal meeting a year ago in October. And so we've spent a lot of hours. Kelly has been absolutely phenomenal. So thank you in just working with me, and everybody's been so friendly here. The reason behind our request, it is an unusual street. If you know the area, it's on Hanson Lake, it's Platte River Drive, and it is a one-way street. And so when you come in, if you saw on the map, I don't know if it's a time for me to put this back up here. If you see, and this is interesting, the satellite view actually shows a full driveway. So there's 2 cars on the east side of the house, and then there's a car in the front. And then I've got pictures I'd like to hand you for the need, if that's okay. Can I hand these up here? Two copies of this was not in the packet. Thank you.
Trent, I'll take
one
one
to
for the
Jason.
permanent.
Yes,
record.
I'll
Yeah.
get one to Jason on it.
Yep.
I think for everybody.
Yep, thank you.
thanks.
Oh, I have a document camera too. So since you have it in front of you, is that okay, or would you rather have the document camera? Let me change this view right here. So the first thing we're showing happens to be my truck parked out front, and if you saw from the satellite image, that's about the same location. It is very narrow through there. My wife Barbara is a retired firefighter, and she used to drive a rig, and she has serious concerns about getting a fire engine through there if there was ever a safety issue. There could be a rescue on the lake. There are several retired people beyond us with serious medical conditions, and there's only one way in to the lake. What is also important on the second picture I'm showing here, that one arrow pointing down, you can see how tight it is already because those pylons have been actually driven over, and that's a steep drop off there. So even as it stands, it's a very narrow walkway. If you look at those trees, we had a neighbor walking by last year during the year when there was leaves on the trees, and she was cutting down those trees, and she had said that she had done that on her own because she walks her dog and cars come around and it's very dangerous to get around that corner. So the reason why we're asking for this is parking can be very tight along there. And the neighbor next door, if you look at where that arrow is on the bottom picture number 2, that shows his garage is right up to the street, so he doesn't have parking in front. And we have limited parking. We have 4 kids at various levels. 2 are away at college, but 3 of them have cars, so it can be quite busy. So our motivation for this was to be able to offset some of the street parking by putting a garage. To be honest, it's not a great financial investment for us. The amount it will cost us to put this garage doesn't really add value to the house, but it's really just to help offset some of the street parking. So that was the motivation behind this. Because there is one way in, and it is a very narrow street, and we have a really concern for emergency equipment getting through. And just to finalize on that, I was helping my neighbor move his pontoon boat the other day, and there was just around the corner from this, a neighbor was sweeping leaves out front, and we actually had to stop the truck with the pontoon and wait for him to move out because it was so narrow we could barely get through. So again, the reason that we're requesting this is to help offset the parking on the street. The final thing I'd like to add, if that's okay, and I can hand out, there is a difference in what we proposed and what the garage will probably be. If we look at this, the final thing I just want to mention, for the conditions of variances, it was noted on here, if I can pass these out, if that's okay. This was the original drawing.
Thanks.
The only reason I bring up this drawing is because in the drawing that was submitted, there's not a rear setback problem. We will meet the 25 feet. When I had Mr. Doug Hill help me create these documents from a survey perspective, I said, just see how far back we can go. From talking with contractors and talking with architects, they said it's very hard to go beyond the house. It wouldn't look right if we went beyond the house. And so this is probably what the construction plans will look like. And so it will only be a 24-foot garage, which is the minimum we need to fit our cars in. I just wanted to bring that up because the plan that was submitted said a 30-foot garage, which will be a building permit thing, but I just wanted to mention that this is probably more likely what it will look like.
Well, I guess, what are you asking? If you've got submitted 30-foot and now are you asking for 24-foot at this point, or what's the request then?
No, thank you for the clarification. There shouldn't be a difference. I'm still asking for the front variance. The back variance already meets the setback. And so I guess my only concern is if you said, well, if you have it extend the way you propose, why don't you put the garage further back? And I'm just saying that probably wouldn't work. That wouldn't be a solution.
Okay.
And so that's why I didn't have it resubmitted for the meeting, because we still need we're still requesting the 9-foot variance in the front to make this work for aesthetic purposes.
The only variance is for the front yard
Right.
setback.
Well, I guess, and we can discuss this later, but I'm seeing inconsistencies. The GIS looks like this drawing. The other drawing you showed us, there was a lot more rear
There is.
lot.
There is. They purchased more ground from the HOA.
Okay, so the lot is bigger.
So the one in your packet is correct. He's just saying he may not build a garage with
Okay.
that depth. It
Well,
still
with this
meets
one,
the-
there's a problem, I guess, but.
Exactly,
okay.
and that's, yes, so,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. Still only the front yard setback,
So,
Okay.
Doug,
but he
if you-
may build a little bit shallower garage, which means there's more setback in the lakeside.
Okay.
if you look at your in your exhibits on the staff report, or the Wachner replat, Lot 1, that will show the new Lot 1 that was just, this is the replat that was just done earlier this month, finalized and platted, or filed. And then if you go to the The exhibit right before that, that's
With the replat.
with the replat, the exhibit with the replat.
So the actual garage is probably going to be more even with the existing dwelling than an offset as shown. That's all he's pointing out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Still meets rear
yeah.
yard setback.
I wasn't sure to even bring it up because I don't want to confuse the issue, but I just wanted to say in case you said, well, go further back, but the architect and the builder said that that's probably not feasible to go all the way back.
Okay, do you have anything else?
The only thing I'd like to just reiterate, it is really a safety thing, is that it's so tight. And as you know, in the summer, it can get really busy with cars, and anything we can do to help offset the street parking and keep our vehicles off the street, we're doing it for the neighbors. The neighbors have been supportive of it. I know that you received several letters. I did ask one neighbor to write a letter, the other two did it voluntarily, so. And I haven't heard anybody that doesn't agree with it,
Right.
so.
Is that you complete, or
I'm sorry?
are you finished now?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for consideration and taking this seriously, so.
Okay.
I don't know if you open up for
We'll
questions.
probably
now?
bring you up to ask questions. We just open the public hearing first, and then.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we'll open it to the public hearing. Do we have any proponents? Any opponents? Seeing none, close the public hearing.
Question, point of order, there, in our packet, there was one letter, one email that was supportive, and then another in today's packet that one was, I think they were both Friday, November 17th, and one we got tonight. But I heard Mr. Wachner say that there were 3 in support. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, there's one in your packet, and there should have been one on the dais next to your,
Okay, that's 2. I thought there were,
no, you should have 2 on the dais. Do you only have 1?
I've got 2 on the dais, and
And then
that's
there's
in
one in your
addition to
packet.
the one in
And
the
then one in the
packet.
packet that's on the computer,
Okay,
the computer it's
right.
email.
I thought I had only one on the dais, but so let's do this. George Flott, I think, emailed one that was part of our packet that we received. And he's in support.
Correct.
And he's right next door to you?
Correct.
Okay. On which side, if we're looking at the GIS? So if we're looking at this one,
He's to the east, and so he would be most impacted. He's right next door to me to the east. It would be between my house and his house.
okay, so that would be on this side. There's a vehicle and a pickup truck here. Looks like it's stuffed in the bed.
So that's where the garage would be right there, so he's just to that side of it, correct.
Okay.
That's
And-
the side his property is.
And so Flott's on that side. Okay. And then we had one from Tony Kuba.
He is on the west side of it, he is my west side neighbor.
Okay. But there appears to be a bunch of landscaping and stuff, a little more space between your property and his.
Yes.
Okay. So there's 2 in favor. Was there another one that I missed?
There's one
Yes, in
within
the
the staff
packet.
report
The
packet.
staff report packet that's on your computer.
Daryl Giles is the name of that submitter.
Page 16. All right.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So there's 3 in favor and no opposed.
Right.
Okay.
That's correct, sir.
That clarifies
Good,
things.
good
in my mind.
clarification, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, what do you do? Open up for questions by us now, or?
Yeah, now we can discuss it.
All right. I have questions. Are you full-time residents down there now?
Do you want me to come back up?
Whatever's more comfortable. Yeah, it might be
Yeah.
easier for the
Get on the
mics.
mic.
We are in transition to full-time. We still have 2 children left in high school that are in Omaha, so we rent a house in town, and this is the only house that we own.
Okay.
And so we live here at least 50% of the time. The kids are with their mother, and so we stay here as much as we can, and in the summer, we're here full-time, and by this time next year, this is where we plan to stay full-time. So we're here 50% at least. This is considered our residence, though.
How long have you been there? How long have you owned the property?
3 years?
Okay. With regard to the proposed setback request, is there any impact on utilities?
They're outside of the setback areas, so, but for the front yard setback, no, there's no utility issues for that.
And that's the only thing we're considering tonight is the front yard setback.
Front yard setback is the only variance request.
And so right now, there's no structure on that, on the location, on the proposed location. But you're gonna have a structure, and that's gonna be close to Flott's property, or closer to Flott's property. That gives you less of an access to get perhaps to the lake, right? Or it's a narrower access to get to the lake.
It's a narrow access. He has a dock on his side, so he's got a driveway going on the other side.
Okay.
And so he actually encouraged this because it helps him get traffic off the street too.
Any impact with regard to the fire department needing to get back through that area once you put your building up? Is that a concern?
I'll just say that's typically what the 5 yard setback is for. The 5 yard side setback is for fire access. So there's 5 yards in between, or 5 yards. I say 5 feet is what I meant to say. So two 5 feet setbacks from each house will result in 10 feet. But usually it's about 7 feet for access at the very minimum. Our smallest zoning district is a total. It's usually 5 feet is kind of the minimum side yard setback anyway. And so this is being met, and that gives them what they need.
Does Flott's property have a 5 yard setback at least?
It is very close. It's very close. It's shown on here as 5 feet as well. But houses are allowed to, the eaves are allowed to overhang into the setback. So it's hard to tell from an overhead aerial, but the survey says 5 feet here, so.
Okay. Jotted down a couple of other questions. Let me find them. You're proposing to put up a garage now. There's where one does not exist, right?
Correct.
What if have you considered the option of not including a garage and just simply having a concrete pad to park your vehicles?
We have considered that.
Why did you reject that?
Well, that might happen. If you say no garage, we would hopefully build out a platform. The majority of the cost of doing this will be to build out a platform and to fill that in. Mm-hmm. And then we're just hoping to put a structure so we have something to keep our cars underneath with. That's our hope. And I don't know if it's not a structure, if that would still be an issue of building out the flat area. But it does drop off 12 feet from the top to the bottom, so we do have to fill that in to build up.
And you're going to have to do that anyway with regard to the
Yes,
garage foundation?
correct.
So it's going to do it just on a slab?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we're just asking for permission to build a garage because we don't have anything to keep our cars in right now.
All right. If I heard you correctly, it was that, and your picture, I think, demonstrated that. This picture says that you park cars on the road, correct, in front of your house?
When we have to, we hope not to.
But you've got 4 kids, and you and your wife have a car. You got at least 5 cars right now. Is there any way to avoid, when your family gets together with 5 cars, parking on the street?
Yes, as a matter of fact, anytime my kids bring friends over, we say, we want you to park at JRCs and carpool in, especially on busy weekends. I mean, that's kind of like what all of our neighbors do. We say anytime you have people over, we try to practice carpooling. And so we're all trying to do this. And I think that's why the neighbors are so supportive, because they go, anything you take off, it helps us too, because it gets very busy there, yes. And so we do attempt that, and it has to be at JRCs quite a bit away, where we make our kids all have their friends park there, and we shuttle back and forth.
So it's more difficult for the big high school parties or college parties.
Yes, yes, and so maybe it discourages that. Maybe that's a good thing.
Has it been contemplated that there'd be no parking on one side of that road? What's the city or county do about that restriction?
So the county public works is in charge of right of way in this area, and this is dedicated right of way. Part of Hanson's and Chris Lake is sometimes it's private roads. So there's a lot of history in this neighborhood. As the packet stated, it was platted in 1975, but all these structures have existed. Roads, structures, lakes have all existed, and not knowing clearly how it worked, it seems as though all of the lots were laid out against what was there already. And so the difficulty in this history I'm trying to explain to finally get to your question is that it's something that's worked on with Public Works. They kind of make those calls. And so to not park on one side of the street, I'm not sure if they've just, tried to work to that or not. I'm not familiar with anything down there. Do they have parking signs no parking signs on one side of the street, or is it all?
No, they don't, and it would be physically impossible if the cars were parked on both sides.
Yeah.
There would not be enough space to even get a car through. So right now, cars will park on the house side instead of the Platte River side, but you couldn't park a car on the other side or you couldn't get through. So it wouldn't be physically possible.
Okay, so you'd basically be blocking off the one-way street if cars
Yeah.
are parking on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
Has that ever happened?
Well, you can see where I showed you the picture with the pylons. People try to go around, and it's dangerous. You almost go off to the side because there's only a 32-inch clearance from the street. So you've got a narrow street and a very low clearance, and so it's just kind of a hairy situation. But we couldn't park on both sides physically; it wouldn't fit.
Well, if you're allowed to build the garage, you'll have a bit of an apron about 9 feet from the street to the front of the garage, correct?
We'll actually have 16 feet, and so the plan is that we could fit 2 cars in the garage and then 2 cars in the driveway as is. So we're keeping, we planned this specifically so we could not give up any parking spaces and have 2 additional parking spots, and we think that would relieve our family.
Okay. Do you have any parking on the other side of your house?
Yes, we have a single parking spot on the other side.
And what is that, gravel, concrete?
It's concrete, and so there's a single parking spot, and from the satellite picture you'd seen, there was a car parked on one side, and then 2 cars in the driveway, and then 1 in the front.
Okay.
And that's kind of typical.
All right. Okay. Those my other comments or questions are more for us to discuss. One more. Let me look at my notes.
Okay.
If anybody else has questions on it,
Do most of your neighbors have garages currently?
Correct. Most of them have garages. If you go up the street a little bit, there is some setback on the Platte River side where they have garages across the street. And so for us being a family living there, we have, it's very little living space compared to the neighbors. Some of them have outbuildings, so they have garages attached to their house and across the street. We just don't have that possibility.
If a waiver were granted tonight, because of all the issues with the lot and everything, what would happen if the house was destroyed by a fire or something? What would they be allowed to do or not allowed to do?
It is a non-conforming house
Right.
that was built, prior to being platted and zoning. So the non-conforming houses that are subject to that non-conforming use in the zoning district or in the zoning regulations, and that states that if it's damaged beyond 50% of its value at the time, then it cannot be rebuilt as such. It needs to come into conformance with the zoning regulations.
so they'd have to meet, the new construction would have to meet all the existing setbacks.
At that point. Yep. The garage, if the waiver was granted, it has variance. So it would have to be, that would probably be recognized in that chance then too.
So is this property in the flood zone? And is that governed by the height requirement of the properties?
Yeah, that's a base flood elevation. But this will have a floodplain permit. Everything that's done in the floodplain development or floodplain area is required to have a floodplain development permit. So it'll be, Kelly will kind of help manage and has already worked with the Walkners to understand what the requirements will be for that garage, and that will be required as such in this.
So that elevation is going to determine how high the garage floor needs to be above the required elevation.
Yeah, I think Kelly could probably speak to that more accurately, but yeah.
Okay. Is that elevation the same as what the house is at right now? Or is it different?
I haven't seen an elevation certificate yet. We'll work through that with the floodplain development permit. But this addition, we would work to meet our floodplain regulations, correct? That's a whole other process.
Yeah.
Will there be any utilities other than electric? Will there be anything else in the garage, like plumbing, bathroom, toilet, anything like that?
No, and we wouldn't be allowed to have any living space there either. That would be part of the permit. There is no living space on any addition to it.
So strictly lights and storage?
Just strictly lights and storage, correct. That would be it.
Right.
It's a utility garage.
Sure. Okay. So, yeah, you're not going to have a dormer in there for, kids' playroom or anything like that?
No. And I would just like to point out with the floodplain certificate, we were actually going through that process, and then Kelly had said, let's halt that to get the to propose the waiver. And so we've kind of started that process, and then we went and did all the survey stuff and changed that, and we felt like this was the first step before we went through the rest of that process.
Thanks.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, I'm trying to remember, do we have to read all of this,
Well,
or how does that go
So
through
in
that?
Section A, you have to find at least one of those, there are three. A hardship. And then in the second set,
sit down.
which would be B,
Yeah, please.
we need to find each of those satisfied.
Right.
So, point of order or question for us, if all the other surrounding lots have some irregular shape, and that's the primary basis for this hardship application, the irregular shape, does this set a precedent that others could rely upon for future variances that we need to be concerned with, or should we take this on a case-by-case basis?
Well, we have had two in the past, since 2000, not like 1999 in my look back at history. We've had two in RD 50 with front yard setback variances, and both were right at 10 feet variance. So we kind of already have a precedence here. And this is a very unique neighborhood in the entire county. And Hanson's Lake, Chris Lake, and Betty Lake all kind of put those together. We don't really have anything quite to this degree of irregularity in lot size. We have other lakeside neighborhoods, but they're typically built towards a zoning district, and so they have recognized setbacks in those typically. So yes, it will continue to set that precedence, but there are different reasons for these typically, and we like to take them by a little bit of a case by case. One thing that we have considered as a planning department is doing some adjustments to the zoning regulations, as in like an overlay district. But then it gets difficult because where does that overlay stop? Is it just go to lakeside, all lakeside development, which is, like I said, it's very irregular here in these older in this older area of lakeside neighborhoods. So, and when this development started, it was really meant to just be a seasonal development, and it's really turned into permanent living. And so that history again is kind of changing things and kind of beyond the point of going back. So yeah, so if you like through the staff report, it was actually called a seasonal housing lakeside district.
This house was built at its current size in 61, right?
Yeah.
And then, so there's been no improvements to the house since then?
Yeah, that's what my understanding was, and I looked to them.
I mean, no footprint improvements.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, footprint.
A follow-up question for the applicants, and that is, the picture that was shown, the GIS picture showed the two vehicles, pickup truck and another vehicle. And beyond that is where the garage would be built, is that correct? Right now, is there any way to park cars beyond where those two vehicles are at, or is it too sloped?
It's too sloped. It's a 12-foot slope at a matter of 20 feet. So you'd be going into the lake.
It's a walkout basement house, right?
Yeah, it's a walkout basement. And so we would have space below, but it wouldn't be any living space below.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Do you want me to pull up? I don't know.
No, that answers my question. All right, Chairman?
Okay, well, I mean, basically everything they're describing, they're suggesting that it's item one, that there's a peculiar exception basically to it has exceptional narrowness to the shape or something of the lot. So I guess the first question is, do we agree with that?
Well, that goes back to my question, which is every lot there has its own unique, bizarre shape. And if we agree that that is a basis for the variance, it meets that criteria, but I'm concerned that there'd be, it's an easy thing to say, oh, my lot's an irregular shape and therefore I need a variance.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we say, I'm hearing you say every lot, we'd have to go back and look and see if every lot had that. I don't know that for sure. I know quite a few of them have these irregularities, and so those are all there. Yeah, this has just been kind of the norm down there. Like I said, there's been two there for Hanson's Lake that we've done in the past 20 years or so. And we've done additional ones for other setbacks. So sometimes it's the side yard, sometimes it's the rear. It just depends. And the questions that you've been asking about easements, utility easements, and those are important questions that have to be considered as part of all of those.
I mean, is it possible to bring it up on the GIS here? Or, I mean, you can really see that they're unusual lots.
Oh,
I mean, it's.
And it's really,
and I've been down there before. I'm familiar with the area. And so perhaps my follow-up question is the fact that we're dealing with an irregularly shaped lot, is that a legitimate basis for the variance in and of itself?
but if you look at
That's
the
not,
zoning.
I guess that's where we're deciding whether or not it's eligible for the variance at this point.
So if you look at the chain of 5-6 lots in between the Platte River and these lakes, then these are, maybe the worst of the worst, we'll call it. But looking throughout the county at this zoning regulator, the amount of variances would be a much smaller pool. If you're looking at the 4 bad examples, yes, they all sort of fit the same criteria, but looking at other lake communities in South Sarpy County, they all seem to be in general conformance with the zoning regulations, and those were obviously built later on too, so they had those before the homes were constructed. Now I was kind of wrestling with the same question you had.
Yeah. Jason, does planning have any say in this, yay or nay, or are you not taking a position because you want us to decide it?
Well, typically, being a waiver of the zoning regulations, we typically don't. We stick to the facts and try to give you guys the facts as far as that goes. And so we give you an analysis of what's there, try to give you a history of the neighborhood, especially in this case, and history of what's been done before, and try to lay that out for you. But yeah, we typically don't give a recommendation on these.
It's recommend denial because it doesn't meet the code.
Right, that's why
There you go. All right.
we're here.
Okay.
Doug, did you?
You want my vote on one?
I guess I just wanted to, so you can see these lots, I guess, and see how they're.
Oh, yeah. I learned how to sail a boat on one of these lakes when I was.
And just kind of
10
zoom
years
out a
old,
little
so
bit
I
and you can
understand
kind
what
of
it's
see
like.
how they compare to the.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you said yay on the first one?
I guess,
I'll say yes.
should we vote, or how should we do on these, or just
We just
general
go through
discussion?
them and your analysis, and then at the end, if
Right.
everything is met, then we do an official vote.
Okay, but do we have to answer
Yes,
yes
so
to
that you would
this?
just tell me on the first one, in section A, and I would mark, that's a yes.
Okay,
If the first one is the one you feel. Now we'll go to section B.
is that just me, or is
Should
that
all the-
everybody?
Well,
all the
you
board
as the
members need to
chairman,
agree.
it's
Yeah,
all the
right.
board members.
Yeah,
It
so
isn't
if I
an
fail
individual vote, it's your discussion.
Right,
Yeah.
So,
I want to make sure everyone.
Yes,
said-
yes.
okay. So we're saying yes for the one.
So then in section B, because you only had to meet 1, 2, or 3, one of those. But in section B,
We have to meet all of them.
in authorizing any variance, you would, so it's satisfied or not satisfied. And that's on each one.
So on item 1, it's such variance may be granted without substantial deterrent to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent or purposes of the applicable county zoning regulations. I would say that's satisfied because they're such unusual lots that there's not really another example of it, so we're not affecting the zoning code.
Yeah, platted property before the lot was platted, so it's different standard. I completely agree.
all right, well, people buy houses as is, they know what's going into it. I'm hesitant to say that the irregularity is a basis for that, but I think in the grand scheme
Well,
of
I think
things,
this question is, are we messing up anything else in the county by
so,
granting this waiver?
all right, I'll say satisfied.
Satisfied.
Yeah, satisfied.
Well, and I just want to add a little piece. If you don't have to come to a consensus on each item,
Okay.
necessarily to keep moving on. It's kind of that last idea of whether you think it meets everything, but not to discourage you, just keep going through everything. I just want to make sure that it's not a vote.
Well, I'm willing to skip to the end, but if somebody wants to discuss some of these, that they have concerns that it doesn't meet, I guess, or that it does.
Well, don't we as a board have to agree that, at least by majority,
Correct,
they all satisfied?
yeah.
So I
guess
think
if-
that would
are
be
you-
our final vote, would be,
Are you reading through them? I guess, are you feeling that there are some that aren't satisfied?
I think we've probably covered it all, the discussions. Do you want to entertain a motion to approve the variance?
I guess if everybody's just
And then
done
by-
discussing it.
And then by default, all of those become marked as satisfied?
That
Would
is
that be the
correct,
appropriate way
sir.
to do it?
Yes.
In my pre-reading,
I would say in your motion to indicate that your findings of fact, you found all 5 in B satisfied. And number 1 in A, if
All right, I'll make a motion that the request for variance be approved and that the findings for approval as to A1, peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties, 2, or undue hardship upon the owner of the piece of property included in the petition due to exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of the piece of property in question, and that the resulting hardship is answered yes. That then goes to paragraph B, and the findings of the board will be as to item 1. Variance may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the applicable county zoning regulations. The board would find that that is satisfied. Item 2, the strict application of the requirements of the applicable county zoning regulations would produce an undue hardship upon the owner of the property included in the petition. That would also be satisfied. Item 3, such hardship is not shared generally by other properties in the same zoning district and the same vicinity. Satisfied. 4, authorization of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property, and the character of the zoning district will not be changed by the granting of the variance. Satisfied. 5, the granting of such variance is based upon reasons of demonstrable and exceptional hardship stemming from the characteristics of the property involved in the petition, and not for reasons of convenience, profit, or desire of the property owner. That would be satisfied. Item 6, the condition or situation of the property included in such petition or the intended use of such property is not of so general or recurring a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation to be adopted as an amendment to the applicable county zoning regulations. And that would be satisfied.
There's a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Please vote.
Aye.
Or how do you want it?
Okay.
She probably rinse
Are
read them or.
are you able to vote electronically on your computers?
Push the button, it'll work.
Oh, the buttons are here.
Yes.
I thought that was like
Are
an
you-
ejection seat. Okay.
All right, so if you can, please vote.
I don't know if it took it or not.
Which side is it?
Oh, yeah.
On the computer in front of you
Yeah,
is,
I got it, it's there.
On the
There, it just
computer.
popped
Oh,
up.
there it goes.
okay,
Oh, we were
just,
Okay.
changing the temperature.
very good.
Buttons on the desk must
Very
be
good.
for the more important people.
Right, yeah.
5 votes for.
5 votes yea, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yep.
All done?
Well, everybody.
Call this meeting adjourned at, no,
Anything else?
wait a
Well,
minute.
so we need to get together to approve the minutes from this meeting and have the chair sign that officially.
Yeah, we had,
So,
yeah, since we don't meet very often, once a year, we want to approve these minutes when they're a little more relevant to everyone. And so we typically just schedule a quick 15-minute meeting, usually no more than that. And it's December 11th or December 14th, 5 or 6 p.m. If those are 2 options that we have currently that we've okayed through to reserve this room. And so if you have a chance to confirm that tonight, that'd be great. But if we need to coordinate that later, that's okay too. And we can do that.
but we need the approved
December
document
11th.
for the applicant, so that's.
December 11th works for me. I don't know.
11th works for me as well.
Either one.
What time on the 11th?
5 or 6 p.m., but we prefer 5.
If we did it at 5, I could do that, but
Okay.
I have a school board meeting I have to
Oh, okay.
be secret, so I wouldn't need to be there, but.
And which date was that?
Is that enough time?
The
The
11th.
The 11th, yeah. As long as I can get,
It's just come in and prove it.
yep, at 5 o'clock, that'll be fine.
You would probably be here 5 minutes tops.
That's
And we
fine,
can
right.
do a verbal vote.
Would it be a problem if I'm in uniform, though? That's the only question I would have.
No.
Okay, then that would be.
We'll just come in here, I'll do a verbal vote, and I will send you the minutes before, so that you can look them over.
Can we
Does
do
that
it by
not work
Zoom?
For anybody?
And avoid the need to,
No, you have to be, I believe the attorneys would say we have to be present.
Does that not work for anybody, the
Yeah.
11th or?
The 11th at
Monday,
5.
December
Works
11th?
for me.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
great,
I should be here.
okay. At
Cool.
5 PM.
So now can we adjourn the meeting at 6:50?
Anything else?
All right.
Okay.